Yes, he got the invite, so he should be getting on.
Say, good morning to each and every one. We'd like to welcome you to McCormick County Council special call meeting on this August 30, 2024. We're gonna call our meeting to order. We're gonna stand and do the invocation from our Vice Chairman, Bernard Hammond, and then we do the pledge of the Legion of the United States flag.
You may bow with me. Dear Father, we gather here in these chambers again to attend some important business in this county in which we represent. We always pray in this decision-making process that the things that we do decide on are for the betterment of all the people in this county in which we represent. Dear Father, we thank you for your love and your grace that you continue to pour out upon us. We thank you for this great county in which we're blessed to live and represent. Dear Father, we pray for our nation. We pray for all the elections coming up in November, that there again, you'll find favor on those that need to lead this great country in which we live. These things we pray in the precious name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time we have our roll call coming from our clerk to the council. Ms. Bond.
Charles Jennings.
Present.
Bernard Hamby.
Present.
Henry Banks.
Present.
Charles Cook. He's online. He's supposed to be online.
Okay. Thank you.
Jacqueline Brown.
Present.
Columbus Stevens.
Present.
Thank you. This time we're gonna have a presentation that will come from DP3 Architects. Will present us an update regarding the WSMAM Community Center.
Are you on?
Yeah, we're no rush.
I'm going to stop sharing and see if I can get him logged on.
Rhonda, you going to speak on that corner? You going to come over here? Do you need a mic?
I'll speak here.
Okay.
I'll try to talk louder once
Okay,
I
that's
start.
fine.
Is that
Okay.
good?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. I'm on it. Can he see now that it's joined? There we go. So there's Chuck, and then here's. Good morning. Okay, now I see you. And Tom, you're here as well?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear Tom?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna share the
Okay.
screen. Okay. So, good morning, and thank you for joining us today at a last-minute kind of call to get together and just walk through where we are on the project and where we're gonna head to finish up and just be excited about what's about to happen when the facility opens up and is running. So, let's see. Sorry. Okay, so up on the screen, you'll see the kind of the image of where we're headed and where we're going. Just recently, this image here is from a picture that was taken on the site last week. And so really this is the purpose of today's called meeting is as we've gotten into the site work out there, we've, oh, y'all aren't getting, y'all aren't getting the new stuff. Okay, hold on. I was joking with Crystal when I got here, and I said, they send me to these technical things, and that's not a good thing. So let's see if it's gonna move. Okay, now it's gonna move.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. This image was taken last week. I'm sure a good bit more, maybe a little bit more has been done since then, but we met on site last week because as they started going through and proof rolling the site, the unsuitable soils have been found. And so we're gonna talk about that just a few minutes more in depth. Before we do that, I just wanna back up and talk through just where we've been with what we talked about at our last meeting in April and where we were with the dollars there, and then as we move forward and look at the costs of what we have before us now, see how all the numbers will tally up at the end. Okay, so you'll see the construction cost subtotal. This is what the base bid and the two alternates accepted. This was the amount that would be in the original, cost and contract with Kulke Construction. This is prior to, as we worked through the project and the change orders came about, which we've already kind of worked through all those and vetted, but I'm just going back to what the base number was. Here is the change order summary. We've kind of met a couple of times on this process. And so back in April when we met, you'll see on line item G that we had an amount of $50,000 that we were to work with as we moved through the rest of the building items that we would run across. And so we held pretty tight to that. We had a bit of an overage of about $16,000 on that. And I know we were kind of working within our budget that we had involved in the soft cost to try to stay right where we knew we needed to be on the dollars. But the next three line items that you see there, we have an outstanding change order to come that is involving a duct detector that needs to be upgraded. It was specified on the drawings as an interior duct detector, and those need to be exterior duct detectors, so there's a small price increase on that. And then we have some monies built in for some framing at the fire line that's in the lobby that is upcoming. And then the final one that we know is outstanding is we also are adding in the building plaques, one for the exterior key cornerstone like you have on this building here, and then the commemoration plaque for Dr. Mims. And so those are the remainder of any foreseen building costs that we have. And so that total would bring our change order subtotal to that I'm sorry, I can't see it at 288?
288,668.
It's supposed to pop up on my screen, but it's not. And then bring our total construction budget to the 537,622. And that is just a construction number. So then when we look at the soft costs that were projected, the fees for architecture engineering fees, and then our on-site third-party testing is S&ME, which Tom Sharp is online with us today because he's going to help us kind of talk through the technical reasons for what we needed on site here in a minute. And then the line items L and M were kind of numbers that I don't have the final numbers on, but those were the ranges of getting your low voltage in place and security, access control, and cameras. So those numbers may, finalize out a little different. I don't have that information, but anyway, that puts our total project budget, the construction cost and any owner soft cost that you guys will have at 5.49. So as I understand, I believe that stays where we need it to stay for you guys and what was already allotted. So, and then today, as what we need to talk about today is just what has come up as has been discovered as an unknown on the site as they started grading and pulling out the dirt on the site. So if you remember back when we met in April, basically the front part of the site there in yellow was in the base bid, and that was 75 parking spaces, including 6 accessible spaces. That was already in the base bid. And then we approved in April to go ahead and finish out the back of the site, which added the 59 additional spaces, bringing the total count up to 134. So this is the diagram of how, as they started putting in the drives and working through and proof-rolling the site out there, this front, it's basically the front part of the site that has the unsuitable soils. And so I'm going to have Tom kind of speak into the areas. I did want to mention that at the top where it says required soil remediation, we have presented this as the worst case scenario. Until they get in there and are digging all the way, they don't know how many inches they have to take out. And so from Tom's inspections, the amount of inches he qualified in his reports is what the budgets have been based on. So, Tom, can you hear us? And if you are willing to talk through these areas, please.
Sure, yeah, I'll jump in. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a background about this site, geotechnically speaking, the picture doesn't do it justice, but basically off of the right-hand side of the property in your nice grassy area, there was an old draw or some kind of creek there in the past, which I believe has been captured in a stormwater pipe, as there's a catch basin off the site that's got constant flow of water in it. And along Mims Drive as well, you have a kind of a low-lying ditch that always has a nice trickle of water in it, which tells us that there is shallow groundwater around the perimeter of the site, which is very apparent on the front side along Mims Road and the right-hand side as well. Looking back kind of on historical data, I think back from the 40s and 50s, there was some kind of old streams in this area that looks like kind of straddles the site in a way and then converges right to the main construction entrance at the bottom right-hand corner of this photo. So in a nutshell, we have shallow groundwater, and shallow being about maybe 2 to 3 feet below top of your asphalt, that is influencing the subgrade soils. It's currently making them unstable to pave on. So the two things we need to accomplish here is to capture the groundwater basically by diverting it away, which we've already kind of started that process, and stabilize your subgrade soils. So I'm pretty comfortable that we've got the groundwater managed. It's the stabilization part is kind of what we're working on right now. And with this shallow of groundwater, unfortunately, it's not really just remove the soil, let it dry out, let it put it right back, because the constant rise and fall of said groundwater can influence those in situ soils, hence the term unsuitable. So the green area probably was your worst case scenario over on the left-hand side of the photo that we've already kind of started an undercut. We saw really good success in that area as kind of like a worst case scenario trial spot to get it stabilized. Moving towards the right, all of your pink parking stalls, I guess you could say, are a lighter duty pavement. We don't really need to go too crazy as far as undercutting, repairing in there. And also those are a bit uphill a bit, so I believe we'll be out of groundwater. We might be able to just rework the soil in place and get it to tighten up, which I believe we're close. It's just going to take a little bit more effort. Now the majority, the really orange kind of highlighted areas are the areas that are spotty. So I believe along the Mims Road side of the site, that nice strip of orange will probably have to kind of go with this GeoGrid surge stone recommendation, but I believe we'll be able to explore some potential cost savings around the roundabout and those drives kind of off to the right and below it. That area has been kind of a working zone for a while, so the soils have just been tore up by construction equipment. So I think once everything's off of it, get it cleaned up, kind of get it ready, we can evaluate it and maybe reduce, undercut X, Y, and Z in there. And along your right-hand side, that's really where the main stream that I've seen is. I believe when we did the building construction, we had to actually put in a French drain along one of the back wall lines just because we had shallow groundwater beneath your footing as well. So that area back there is always going to be under the influence of groundwater. But if we get some kind of geogrid rock stabilization, your pavements will not have any issues in the future. And that's the biggest reason why we need to do this is I believe the contractor's got to warranty their asphalt. So in order to do that, we need to be able to hold up under heaviest equipment, which typically is a fire truck is what these pavements are designed for, or EMS kind of systems. Those weights are typically around the same as, I'll just say a load of gravel from a quarry. So we use one of those trucks to kind of evaluate the subgrade soils to see if it can hold up under that piece of equipment. And if it does, EMS can access your site without destroying your asphalt, and they can, handle an emergency situation when it comes up. So I think in these orange areas, we could probably shave off some undercut and geogrid if we really just kind of work the areas, especially on the roundabout area, kind of that right-hand entrance side. But this is the time of year where we start to turn as far as rainy season goes. So right now we're at kind of the lowest groundwater elevation being the end of summer, which is prime time to remediate subgrade soils. But as we get into the wetter season, we've already had one hurricane come through. That groundwater will start to rise closer to the surface. So we have the potential to reduce undercut now since we're in the dry season, rather than wait till the wet season. If we were to do it, let's just say November, we might be undercutting more just because of the near surface groundwater. But that's kind of what I've seen on sites like this. This is honestly a pretty repetitive process, but we don't typically like to recommend geogrid and surge done unless absolutely necessary, just because we know the costs. We ideally like to get away with something, a little more cost effective, like cleaner soil, maybe even some crushed concrete, which Rhonda's got kind of in parentheses as well if you find a source, or just something more cost effective. But with these kind of shallow groundwater scenarios, sometimes those attempts are kind of futile. That brings us up to speed as far as geotechnically goes.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, so here we are with some numbers in response to this. Again, this is worst case, and as Tom's explained that, we wanted to put out a number that would cover anything, but if the money is not used, we certainly, they'll be keeping an itemization of to site as they move across it, and the dollars won't be billed if not used, if we are able to back off the amount of subsoil that's having to be pulled out. So this is broken down into two phases. On line item P1, you'll see the $81,000 has already been incurred because of on the right hand of the site that Tom was just defining, where there was a water line that was removed and capped, and that water leakage under the ground was causing some issues there as they were trying to proceed, as well as some backfill and on some water line that was installed on the west side of the property. And then the projected numbers for what you just saw in the last image is projected at $204,864. So that total then coming to the $285,864. That one would bring our total project cost with everything all in would be at the $5,776,445. Stop here then for a minute. Any questions that everyone might have?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Councilwoman.
When looking at the map, if you go back to the colors, the orange, the pink, and the green.
Yes.
He said on the green area, we've already determined that's worst case scenario because of what's already there.
Correct.
The orange will be the next level.
Yes.
It could turn into green.
No.
The orange would lean towards the purple.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the
goal
pink,
is to get it all towards that purple, but the orange is kind of the middle of the ground, middle of the road repair.
okay. And the long part, that's the part along Mims Drive. Because there was a stream there. I remember when I was at school there as a kindergartner, that was a stream we used to play in.
Yeah.
We ain't gonna say how many years ago, it was a few years ago. And I don't know that that ever got resolved. And I know there was a spring when we looked at the building before, when we did the walkthrough. So all of that has impacted this. If, when we get into it, the level, you said 2 to 3 feet down for the orange piece? Is that right, Mr. Tom?
That's correct.
All right. If it's more than 2 to 3, that would push us back up into the green area. But we're looking to try to remediate the orange into pink or purple. That's the game plan, right? Because the pink part that's showing now, we feel like that would support the fire trucks, EMS stuff, and that sort of thing once we get it done.
Well, keep in mind, the purple is actually for personal vehicles.
Just parking. So those
Orange is your main.
is our driveway area.
That's your main thoroughfare for fire trucks, EMS, buses, your heavier equipment, which would run the perimeter of the building and not park in the purple area.
All right.
We also, and my highlighter won't show up on the white, but the area that is where the roundabout is and the 2 drives that come like a circle around through that, we also have talked about that we could have signage there, and the rescue vehicles, heavy vehicles, would not need to go through there as well. So we would like to propose, if when they start digging, that we keep that as also pink or purple, whichever one it is for y'all.
But, and on the back side, none of this impacts that, because I don't see anything highlighted on that.
That's correct. So
That's correct.
Yes,
Okay, because everything kind of runs down that hill to this area.
that's correct.
And,
And I will say, just to give a little more information, whenever I was out there, the groundwater is about 3 feet down. So ideally, I don't want to dig that deep, just because once you get into the water, it's hard to remediate to get out of it. So my goal is to stay above the water table. So the shallower remediation, the better. There basically is no bottom once you get in the groundwater. So trying to avoid that.
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Councilman Cook.
I have a couple of questions. First, let me say, in looking at this map, when I look at the pink areas and I think about what happens to similar areas with respect to personal vehicles on county property, I think it is a poor assumption to say that we do not need to prepare those personal parking areas to the same extent and with the same level of protection that we have done for the orange areas. We always have utility vehicles, trucks, food trucks, all kinds of vehicles coming in and using those personal parking spaces for storage or whatever it may be. I mean, you may be bringing in trailers, you may be bringing in dumpsters. I think it would be unwise to simply keep that as pink designated areas without properly supporting it to the same level that you're going to have to support EMS vehicles, fire trucks, and other kinds of delivery vehicles and everything else. Otherwise those pink areas within a relatively brief period of time, if they're used for other purposes, they're simply going to get torn up, and we're going to have to go in there and redo it all over again.
That's it. You correct.
The second question that I would raise with respect to this is when council approved the expansion of all of the parking spaces back in April. At some point in time, there should have been an engineering study done to determine whether or not the parking situation as planned and as budgeted was feasible before we were ever asked to approve the budget. I mean, this thing has been in the planning process for how many years? 4 or 5 years at least. And I can't believe that we are now at this particular stage of the game and proposing another $490,000 of work just to be able to put in the parking. Why wasn't this anticipated? Why didn't we do an engineering study at the beginning to determine that?
I can speak to a couple of
Okay.
items
Go
on
ahead.
that. As far as the remediation, unfortunately, what we are finding is that what was approved in April, the back half is not really where the issues are falling. It's in what was already scoped out at
Before.
the beginning, before. So I know
Well, that makes it even worse.
maybe. I do think when we move into a project, typically soil borings are taken, you know, when there's going to be new construction. And so in the areas where the buildings were, I know I don't have that information with me, but we had soil borings done for, you know, the weight of the building and to evaluate the soil for the bearing of the building. I would have to double check and see what other percolation or whatever areas on the site were tested, and I can certainly look back at that information and see what was studied. I don't have that available at the time, but I know, you know, typically we do it for where the building foundations are going. So I can't speak at this moment for what was studied around the site.
Well, I think some assumptions were made somewhere along the line.
Yes.
I think some assumptions were made along the line that simply didn't pan out. I mean, this originally started as a $2.5 million project for phase one, and it is now sitting at $5,776,000 and change, and that is not all just inflation. We have done so much remediation work on this building in terms of fixing water, fixing leakages, fixing everything, and now we're presented with another almost $500,000 to fix just the subsoil for the parking. And let's suppose that we spend all of this, we go down to before the water table, we put in this impermeable layer, and it erodes out from under us. How long can we expect this to last before we may have to go back in and redo it all over again? With the groundwater situation, surely this is not a permanent fix.
Tom, can you speak to the technical part of the fabric and what you foresee with that?
Yeah, no, this is a permanent fix. This is used, I mean, when they build roads over swamps. So this geogrid, surge stone, pressure run combination is designed to be a permanent fix. It is, you're talking about eroding away. It is contained by soils around it to prevent it from moving laterally over time. So there really is no concerns of it just disappearing in the future. Now, your pavement sections, that'd be your where your lifespan comes into. I'm not sure what the pavement lifespan is designed for. I would assume 15 or 20 years if your subgrade soils are suitable for that pavement support. So maybe that's something Richard could speak to. I don't really know off the top of my head what the pavement section is designed for. But if these subgrade soils can support that vehicle loads, the asphalt should hold up for its lifespan. You're not talking a couple of years, you're talking whatever that design lifespan is.
And I do.
Now, does that just mean that it'll have to be repaved? Or that we'll have to go back through the process of looking at the subsoils again?
That's typically just mill and overlay, so just repave, resurface. Unless you have someone come in and dig some asphalt out to fix whatever.
If I
Well,
could,
you've drilled some test bores, but this is on what do you base the assumptions that having performed those few test bores that this plan is going to fix it? In terms of assurances to us that this thing is going to be fixed by what you're going to do you need to take additional test bores to prove that?
No, I believe we've done enough. We've done several rounds of test pitting. We've got the pavement sections from the civil engineer and the loads, and our senior geotechnical engineer provided recommendations back in July for said pavement section based off of test pit data and several rounds of proof rolling.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sort of very grieved that we find ourselves in this situation today. From the testimonies all along, we've known from the previous students, alumni, that the school has had water issues, from water going through the lunchroom when it rained to running down the sides of the building. But yet we continue to approve and move forward, knowing all this has existed, continues to exist, and has reoccurred with another $400,000. We're putting a lot of money in a facility for basically civic activities and recreation, which is very much needed. I was just saying that I just signed up two of my foster kids yesterday in the rec department, and very proud for things for the youth to do. But when we're approaching $6 or $7 million on a project that I don't see generating a lot of revenue in the near future, I see a heavy expense to maintain, operate, and protect this facility to generate any kind of revenue. I know that we discussed, 2 weeks ago at our regular meeting, that we've already had a customer wanting to use the building. Now we hear that that's probably going to be delayed because of the parking lot sinking. I'm a little upset about as Mr. Cook was discussing sampling. The late Robin Strum and myself were on the committee to build the library. And the number one thing in the initial stages of developing, engineering, and building that building was lots and lots of core bores, because I haven't heard anyone mention the gold mines. And I know the proximity of the gold mines is near there. So we did tons of testing to make sure that our library didn't fall in a gold mine shaft or something. So I would like personally to see the testing results, the sites where they were, because, and then I don't hear y'all saying anything about you estimating and guessing, that kind of stuff. What liability does fall on the engineering company that we don't, if we do tend to start having problems in the future, how long are y'all guaranteeing this process has been recommended to us? I haven't heard the extent of, you know, how much are you going to back this up if we do continue to have problems? The other thing is, when I was called, it said there was high contamination. I worked at a nuclear facility for 25 years, and when you say contamination, that's a scary word, particularly in the nuclear business. Number one, you want to know, you have to identify the type of contamination, and number two, the most important thing is the source, and then, of course, stopping it and remediation. And so, do we know what this contamination is? Is it chemical? Has DHEC been involved? It's just a lot of questions, and we only had we were notified 24 hours ago. When did this contamination? When was that detected?
So it's not,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think using the word contamination is the wrong word.
That's a big word, but that's how it came to me, and that's what the public's
I
hearing.
think unsuitable.
Hold there
was the
one
term.
second. Let's go, let's clear this up now. Mr. Stephen, can you clear this up?
I'm trying to figure out where contamination come from. We talked about remediation of soil.
Unsuitable might have been the
Unsuitable.
word,
I
yeah.
see it on the agenda.
It's just the way it came to me. Yeah, okay.
Okay, well,
That's what the public needs to know.
right, we can stop contamination right now and move on. Okay.
Where it is not adequate for us to place the asphalt. Granted that there's a lot of unknowns as we started uncovering and grading existing water lines that have been leaking over years that added to the underground springs, which made the areas worse than originally anticipated. But until we can start grading these areas, nobody knew the extent. That's the problem. So with Tom, with SM&E, purple was to limit the depths that we had to dig to sustain a personnel vehicle. Now, granted, will it hold an ambulance, like we thought EMS? Yes, it'll hold an ambulance. But I wouldn't park a loaded dump truck or something big and heavy in a light-duty area. That's not what it's designed for. That's the orange area that is a heavier duty pavement to sustain a longer time, fire trucks, buses, garbage trucks, so on and so forth. That's how all projects are designed, was the intent of the traffic. So I just wanted to clear that up. I'm the last one that wants to be sitting here. We're about 85% done with this project, and I will promise you, when it's said and done, all the shrubbery and all the landscaping's done, and the signs are up, when you walk in this building, you're gonna understand you've got one heck of a building that's gonna be a marquee building for this, not only this area in the South, because there's not another building in the South like this building. And I'm glad to be part of it from day one, but I just feel also, we encountered a lot of structural issues that we fixed. We're roughly 2.5 months behind schedule, then you throw the rains in. Hence, Tom's comment with SM&E is, we're getting ready to go into the rainy season, and with these areas open, it's gonna make it worse. So, we're here to present this fix as a team to rectify the situation for us to move forward. So, I just wanted to, shed light on that.
Thank you for that clarification. But just hearing you speak on what a very nice facility is going to be, okay? I understand that, and I'm very proud of what it's going to become. But my concern as a representative for the people of this county, there's 9,000 people in this county. This project is approaching over $7 million, apparently. That's a lot of money for 9,000 people. Yeah, it might be one of the state-of-the-art facilities, rehabs, or whatever for McCormick County, but somebody's got to pay. The taxpayers of this county is going to have to pick up the burden. We have not even discussed what it's going to cost us to maintain that facility, protect. I heard cameras, but you still got to have security. To staff that, we're looking at possibly another $500,000 annually. And that's why I'm concerned, not me personally, but for the people that I try to represent. And I do appreciate what you've done, and I'm glad to hear that you're saying about the liabilities, because that's the most important thing on a project this big, that if we do have problems within the next 10 years, we have a recourse that we can go back and fall upon if there was something else that was overlooked that should have been taken care of by the engineering firm.
Well, like I
Mr.
said,
Chairman.
we start talking numbers, and I completely understand your soft cost. Cameras and your access controls built in to this project on the front end. But when we start talking additional money, we're in the $5 million range construction costs, and we're looking at about $285,000 for unsuitable soil. So, I want to make sure we're not in the 500,000, we're not in the $1 million range, we're at $285,000 for this project to move forward to where we can.
I understand that, but the thing I keep hearing you that you've repeated several times is the if factor. If this soil proves that you don't have to go deeper. So I don't like the two-letter word if, because that means that this 300,000 could possibly go above if you run into something else. I know we got to finish the project. I'm not fussing too much about that, but this is quite a surprise when we've known historically the water issues around in this facility for quite some time. I feel like it should have been engineered up front, a lot of this stuff that we having to go back and fix as you find them. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yes, go ahead.
So I did want to clarify, just on high level of numbers, just to make sure, I think Richard kind of pointed to it, but we're not at 7 million, we're at 5,777. So
Correct.
that's an added million
We
that
understand.
I don't want to put on your plate.
That's right.
So just not to scare.
I-
And
I
then,
But you can't guarantee that it won't go to
well, and
7.
here's the thing though, I
We ain't
think
going there
maybe
before we get
the
there,
worst,
okay?
the worst case scenario, I think we're we're looking at it two different ways. This 285 is the worst case. If we do anything different, we're going less.
Right.
So I want to make sure that, you know, that's the cap, it's not, this is a number and then we might have more. We intentionally, with even the numbers on the building change orders, that's all, we're not coming back. We would love to see you again, but not.
But not for a change
additional
order,
money.
additional funds.
So this is an all-in number, and so anyway, I just want to make sure you understand the term on their worst case is, we're hoping it's not 285, we're hoping it's whatever less than that.
Less than that, right.
So-
And we saying not to see 300,000. I don't believe in frightening people. Some people get nervous when we just throw numbers out.
Yeah.
And so it's on just throw numbers out. It be real. Because we got too much invested to try to frighten people. I think everybody agree with that. So you don't want to frighten people. That's the easiest thing. Frighten people at this stage. You 85% finished, right? So then, I know my constituent will be totally upset. And they have a right. You're going to just go do away with 85%. You don't invested all this in the project and say, let it go. Because now you're finding all the fault. I know, I don't love to see change orders. And I know anytime you start remodeling, you don't know exactly what you're going to find. And then I didn't know the danger. Nobody knew the danger of all them springs up there, that location. Plus, that building was built in 1953. Then that building did addition somewhere in 1960s. Then later, in 1970, when we integrated, we did more addition. Then we done came back at least 3 times since then. Adding on. That's why you got all them different water lines coming into the building. And that's what have created chaos. And that's why we had to get a new building. So I wasn't thinking with all that addition, how much trouble that would be. Not that I want y'all to send us some more change order now. We don't want to send that. We want quality work. But I understand that we're not at $6 million. Okay? We're not at $6 million. And we're not going to take no $1 million to operate this building.
I didn't say $1 million, I'm just saying.
Well, but if that preposition goes either way, negative or positive. And so let's be real. We can not support something, but just don't try to destroy it. And that's what we hear. We hear that we found some more leaks, that we want this soil moved. This remediation. And so you're saying that if you come in and take care of this, y'all hoping that this will be hit. That we definitely don't want to see any more change order. Please. That's what got all us upset. And sometimes we start adding. When you add a change order, then I add more to the change order. And so then that just get concession, because people do read paper, people do go on Facebook and everywhere, and they talk. Yeah. And sometimes when the second one talk, it's not correct like it started. And so that's why we have to be careful. Now, Council Vice Chair heard about contamination. That from a second or third source, not the first source. And that's why we want that. How you talking about time? 15%. What kind of time you talking about? If we agree.
Probably looking at the middle of October.
Okay.
You was mentioned, Mr. Chair, the time. I did ask the question, when was this noticed? When was this identified as a problem? Because I was only notified 24 hours ago. So can you answer when it was determined that this soil was not suitable? Yes. And you had to call in a extra consultation firm?
So the third party is already on board from the.
No, when were they called? I'm just trying to figure out how long has this been going on before we found out?
How long ago?
About 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks. See, that's an issue to me, that something of this critical nature, we could have discussed this.
Until we were able to determine the full extent,
Okay.
instead of piecemealing certain segments of the property,
And Mr. Stevens notified at that time that y'all were doing that evaluation?
Mr. Chair, if I may, we met a week ago when they brought SM&E on site. That's when I found out that we started discussing, and we determined at that point that we needed to have a special call meeting. The reason we didn't have the special call meeting last week, we didn't have all the facts together. So as a result of that, all of the information was given, finalized with these numbers, because I didn't want to speculate what it was going to cost. So it took them that time frame to pull the numbers together. And then one other thing I want to make too, in not trying to prolong anything, when we started with this project, 2023 for numbers, I gave county council a sheet projecting with all of the change orders and everything, a bottom line number of $5,510,471.11. As of today, with this change order, the projected finishing of the whole product is $265,983.89 above what I projected. I showed you all the funding sources that's available. The sheets that's in front of you will show you that if we complete this project based upon the 15-year warranty that we're gonna have, McCormick County for the project of the WSMM, we don't have to go back and include no taxes on any citizen. We should finish in the black in terms of this project. We allowed for uncertainties. We usually do about a 20% over and beyond. And I want to thank Ryan also with the building department to help us save some of the additional costs, like relocation of fire hydrants, which we'll be able to relocate, put it west, as opposed to charging us any additional funding. So my point is, we did plan to try to accommodate this entire project. And we do have the funding available in front of you, and I understand the concern. That's why we try to be ultra conservative and try to bring facts back to the group. But to answer your question again, Mr. Vice Chair, we met last week. I met on site myself with them. Soon as it became knowledge to me, I told them to finalize the numbers and I'll pull a council together. And I just hate that we had to do it prior to the holidays. However, if you wait, they are anticipating rain coming in. So I wanted you all to be aware that, and I've already sent a letter to Rhonda, and I sent one to Corky and them stating that, please, under no circumstances, come back with any other change order. Make sure that this final, and also minimize the liability going forward. So we have had these discussions. Ryan has been involved as the building official. I appreciate you all asking the questions, because that's the purpose of us trying to meet today, so we can provide the facts and let county council decide where do we go from here.
Mr. Chair, in my closing comment on this, I appreciate that update. I would ask and request that and I'm sure it's been done or will be done, but the liability and the warranty on the entire project be in writing, and I guess our attorney will review it, because we need that to protect the investment that the people of this county are having to make.
That's already part of the contract.
I know it was, but I just wanted to publicly say that we've been hearing a lot, and there's still a lot of unknowns, and we need to see it.
Pass it on that McCormick County does not operate second-class business.
I understand.
Okay, so nobody can accuse us of operating second class. You've been here almost long as I have. And that we always have had a ton here. Yeah. Ever since you came on board, and it was a ton here before I came on board.
And I knew he probably had. I just want to go on the record that
that won't be necessary, because we ain't gonna deal with these kind of $1 million without a lawyer.
Mr. Chair, one final point. I think the question was asked about the soil testing. Can you do the summary, send it to us so we can make sure that all of the council members have that information? And then I'll get Krista also to post it on our website to show the results of the soil testing, because those results are available, and because it's common knowledge now that it's been
We have the
Okay, thank you.
reports.
And Mr. Chair, if I
Get
may,
that com-
I think the contractors and the architects and guys have been looking forward as they work on this project. You can't anticipate everything that will happen from a site that was set up the way this site was set, and that they have done a good job, I think,
Right.
in informing the administrator, which is their first line, not with council, and the administrator reports back to council. Council is ultimately responsible for what happens or doesn't happen in this county. But at the same time, we have an administrator for a reason. And part of his job is to gather facts, gather information, present it to council, and then council to act on that. I believe that everybody has acted in good faith.
Right.
And is still acting in good faith.
Correct.
And I don't want the public to get the idea that they're not, because I don't think they are not acting in good faith.
Right.
And that we as council are also acting in good faith. We're asking the hard questions. We're making the statements. Everybody has a right to whatever they feel. But when it gets down to it, we need to look at the facts. For this project to move forward, council has to make a decision. And the decision is the soil remediation project. And if we don't soil remediate, there is no going forward. Okay, so at this point, and to the point of costs involved, we all know that everything costs more now than it did before. And because the project has gone as long as it has, it's taken more money to do some things than it would normally. I just don't want us to get in the weeds about this project. It was one of those things that was part of the capital penny sales tax, and we all know that we're getting ready to hopefully try to do that again. Projects have been put in place for the people to vote on whether or not they're going to do that. But even with that, we knew that this was not going to be enough funding in the capital penny sales tax for this project. And to that end, the administrator and the finance staff have looked at other pools of money, and other pools of money are being used. But there's not increases listed as far as the taxpayers for this. There are different pools of money that have been set aside that will be used for this. And so I just want that to go on record as well. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you. Council Bank.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Councilman Cook.
I understand what Jackie is saying. It's one of these situations where if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. With respect to the capital project sales tax, we were in for $1 million. Now we're in for close to $6 million. And as I indicated before, not all of that is inflation. We have spent a substantial amount of money in terms of trying to make a facility that probably never should have been designed or completed on that site into a showpiece for Dr. Mims. And I understand the rationale for creating something that the county can be proud of and that it serves as a memorial to Dr. Mims. But I can't express how strongly I feel that we went into this ill-prepared. We did not do our homework with respect to the site. We have been lured, the further we've gone into that, the more we have discovered that was probably not an appropriate site. And I would point out that obviously nobody likes to come back to the committee and ask for more money, but it's not us that you're asking the money for, it's the people of the county. And when we look at the budget that has been prepared and the sources of the funds, those are funds that have either been borrowed, for which we are going to have to pay it back through payments from our normal budget, or there are funds that could have been used for other projects that could have benefited the people of the county in a different way. So, as much as I understand that if we don't approve this, we are not going to be able to finish the project, it doesn't give me any satisfaction if I have to do that, because I think we've messed this up from day one. I appreciate what the contractors have done. I appreciate the problems that they have run into, but I cannot help but believe that if that site had been properly reviewed from the beginning, we would have had a different story to tell at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the county council for your comments here today. And I understand how everyone feel. I understand. Because today, when nobody was giving us any money, you were asking for money to finish this project. And always, my granddad and daddy said, hindsight always foresight. So you can look back now, we can come up with all kind of reasons not to do something. And we should have done this or done that. But we didn't do that or that. And I don't care how much you do in life, once you go to take on a project, when you look back, you can always find reason you should have did it another way. That's just been life. But Americans don't stop, we keep on going. And this is a productive project that can be a plus for McCormick County for years to come, and that you provide quality service for all citizens of McCormick County. But today is some growing pain economically, and but the contractor, what I've seen by going over there and look, you have done a good job. And I know your intention are to continue to do good, and you've been keeping Mr. Stephen informed. And Mr. Stephen been keeping county council informed about what's going on. So at this time, I'm calling for the motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just want to do a brief summary.
Okay.
With all due respect to county council and the residents, we did not go into the project blindsided. We did a cost analysis based upon what would be better to renovate the current site or to build from scratch. When we started discussing this, to build that facility from scratch would have been $8 million initially. If you take the same square footage based upon what we're doing now, go find land and infrastructure, this same project, I hear what you all saying about honoring Dr. Mim, this project would be minimum $12 million, and that's being modest. So we didn't go into the project blindsided. There have been a whole lot of preliminary discussion initially. We determined, when I say we, I did not move forward without the blessings of county to say, let's go ahead and venture out. So my whole point I'm trying to make is, contrary to popular belief, we did a methodical method analyzing the best foot forward to move with the project. So I do appreciate county's support and even the previous council members. However, let's just be realistic. It's the cost of doing business, and I appreciate everything that you all have done. And that's just my take on the situation, and I'm proud of what county council have done, and hopefully that we'll be prepared in the very near future to tackle additional projects that's gonna cost us tremendously that'll benefit citizens as well. Thank you.
Thank
If
you.
I may, real quick.
Yes.
Just looking at the rough numbers from this project from the very beginning, you're looking at an 8% increase. That's well within the norm of the typical 12 to 15%
From the beginning, yeah.
overage over a term of a project. So 8% also shows our good faith in how to manage costs, working with DP3, Rhonda, working with Columbus Stevens, and you guys here on the council. We talk a lot of numbers, but at the end of the day, what's the bottom line is what you guys have to answer for. only have right at an 8% increase in over 14 months. That's something to stand for itself. So we talk numbers, I wanna make sure that we talk realistic numbers that are on
Correct.
cost, not forecast. I'm hearing 6 million, 7 million, I'm hearing 800, 700,000 in change order. That's not, the bottom line, those are not the realistic numbers. But at the end of the day, in 14 months, you've only had an 8%
8%. If we, if council had started this 10 years ago, just think about it. We kick the can down the road. And I ain't gonna stay here all day, because I could keep talking. It's a lot could be said. Ain't no one somebody, because all of us informed. So we've been around here a couple of days. I call for a motion, and this motion is to consider authorize the administrator to approve the soil remediation not to exceed $300,000.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
The motion and second. Any further discussion, comments?
Yeah, just my final comment, since I've been sort of opposed to the project from day one because of just understanding the financial burden that it's going to put on our county, and hearing the final word about our facility, it still stands that there's a lot of unknowns. The water's going to be there. We're still speculating, so I have a concern about that. But anyway, as a representative, one of the representatives of this county, our job is to represent our constituents, and my constituents have been pretty vocal about the whole project. So I definitely will not be voting in support of it, but it is a very nice facility. Y'all have done a great job. This has nothing to do with y'all and the work and how beautiful the place is going to be. This was a financial thing that I've had a burden about, how the county could have invested that kind of money in a lot of affordable housing, things for our youth, for our education, a lot of other things. But that's beside the point. That's just my final comment.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Cook.
I appreciate the fact that the costs have only gone up 8% the last 14 months. But some of us have a bit of a longer viewpoint on that phase one of this project was originally scheduled to cost $2.5 million. And so we're looking at an overall cost increase from the conception of this project and the initial estimates of that project cost going from 2.5 million to nearly 7 million. So we're not looking at just the price increases that have occurred in the last 14 months. We're looking for the initial estimates that were made when you put together when the architects put together this three-phase project. So we have a longer term, a little bit different viewpoint, particularly with respect to the advantages of this project for the overall county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
If I might add to that,
Yes,
too,
go ahead.
though, respectfully, there's been a lot of things in the world that have happened as well. And, when we had the recession, I believe in 2008, and then with just all the changes in the market with COVID, the pricing did go up, but we didn't sign the construction contract at the $2 million. We had to hold off for a couple years, really, to move forward, and that was because of everything going on in the world and the price increases. So I just want to just state for the record that it's not just here that happened. This was everywhere. So we didn't sign the original contract. We were at 4.7. With the alternates accepted, it was really at 4.8. So, just for what it's worth, we are fighting a lot of things in the surrounding economy. So I do appreciate that, Mr. Cook. But
Yeah, I appreciate that too, Rhonda. But what happened to you is the same thing that has happened to us.
Sure. Yes, sure.
Right. Yes. Okay. All in favor? Know by the right hand? All opposed? Councilman Cook, yea or nay?
Nay.
Nay, okay. approve. We look to see some more soil move. Been another great day here in McCormick County.
Oh, he needs, the chairman needs it?
While we're here, you need to set
Set
your
a
date
date. He-
for your SLV holding.
Oh, okay.
Another meeting.
Yeah, okay,
Oh,
good.
okay. And look at our calendar.
When do they want it?
It's on that.
Yes.
What-
Oh, yes.
Are you feeling?
Tom, thank you for joining.
September the 9th.
Yes,
Wait, let him stay on.
yes.
Stay, let Councilman Cook stay on for a minute.
Tell him we're gonna.
Can you still hear, Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Okay.
Stay on for a minute. We got to set a meeting for SLB
Holding
holding.
agreement, modified agreement, right.
Looking at September the 9th, 11 a.m. or 4 p.m. Or September the 10th at 3:30 or 5 p.m.
Mr. Jennings, if I'm not mistaken, those dates are 11 to 4. If you look at the time on September 9th, they saying they can do 11 through 4 o'clock. That's what the attorney is saying. Any of those times, not just 11 and 4.
Or
but
4.
11 it's
Anytime between
anytime
11.
between 11 and 4 o'clock they can meet. And
I'm hearing multiple people talk at the same time. What
Okay.
am I?
Okay, let me get it. We can meet Monday, September 11th. I'm giving everybody time to look at their
September 9th.
calendar.
9.
September the 9th, between 11 and a.m. and 4 p.m.
I would prefer the 10th, but,
The 10th will be from 3:30 to 5 p.m. Okay.
it sounds good to me.
Mr. Chair, I cannot make that meeting. I have a dental appointment at Dental College
On the 10th.
on the 10th.
Right. Ms. Cook, can you meet on the 9th?
9th?
Yes.
What time again?
Give me a time. Between 11 and 4 p.m.
How long we gonna plan on, an hour and a half?
it'll be executive
But
session.
it's gonna be a executive session. The meeting, the time depend on you. We can make it 10 minutes or 30 minutes. If you want to,
If we meet on the 10th at 11 o'clock, or I mean the 9th at 11 o'clock,
11 o'clock on the 9th?
Yes, sir.
11?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 11 o'clock.
It's a Monday.
That's a Monday.
Okay.
Monday week from
That's
this
good,
Monday.
that's good.
11 a.m. Okay. At the administrative office.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Everybody have
Move to adjourn.
okay. Been motion
Second.
and second to adjourn and everybody be safe on the Labor Day weekend.
Okay.